So we are moving on in our motion unit to talk about forces and Newton's laws of motion. Tonight you're going to learn about different types of forces that act on objects and apply that information to his first law of motion with the NFL video from NBC Learn. So the definition of forces is that they are a push or a pull on an object. So basically anything that puts an action somehow on an object. So there is always a direction in which a force acts, but you can't see the forces, kind of like you can't see the wind blowing, but you can see the effects the wind has on the objects around it when it blows through the air. When we draw out pictures of forces acting on objects, we use arrows to show the direction in which the force is acting. And when we measure them to get an actual number or a quantity, we use newtons as the unit. So you've seen newtons before when we've dealt with weight, and that is because weight is a type of force based on the acceleration due to gravity multiplied by the mass. So you should have kind of maybe recognized that relationship a little bit when we briefly discussed the second law of motion today. If not, you're going to see it a lot more in a couple of days. So balanced forces means that the forces acting on an object are equal, and not only are they equal, but they are acting in opposite directions. So in this first picture, you have a wagon and you have somebody pushing on it from one end, so that's the forward push. But if the forces are balanced, that means that you have forces that are stopping the movement. You have an equal push on the opposite side, and that means that that wagon doesn't go anywhere. If the forces are unbalanced, that means that one push is stronger than the other. So in this case, this picture, you have a forward push that's a little stronger than the forces that are stopping the movement. So unbalanced forces are when the forces acting on the object are not equal. That means that the object itself are moving. So if the forces are in the same direction, that means that we've got both forces acting together. And the net force, which means the overall force, is the sum. So when we have the sum of something, that means we're talking about addition. If the forces are in opposite directions, so they're working against each other, the net or overall force is the difference between the two forces. So that means that you're going to do some subtraction. So with these pictures here, you've got these pictures in your notes, and we're just going to decide first of all if they're balanced or unbalanced, and I'm just going to write a B or a U next to them, and then we're going to figure out exactly what the force would be and which direction the object would end up going based on those forces. So in each of these pictures, we have the arrows moving away from the object, so we can pretend that people are pulling on the object. So maybe they're trying to pull a table, or maybe it's like you and your sibling fighting over something and you're having like a tug of war. So this very first picture is an object, and that you've got two pulling against it, and you should notice that these forces are not equal, so it would be unbalanced. And so if I've got 6 going towards the negative end, if we had a number line, and then 10 going in this opposite direction, again, when they're working in opposite directions, we find the difference. So what we're going to do is say 10 minus 6, and you know that's 4. So we've got 4, capital N, for newtons, and now we need to say what direction it's going. Well, we have more newtons on this side than on the other side, so that means that it's going to end up going in this direction when they cancel each other out. And if we need some more explanation of this in class, I'd be happy to demonstrate. Now, object 2, you should see that all of the forces on this side. And so when we have the forces working together, we add them together. So we're going to have 4 plus 4, and that equals 8 newtons, and it's going to end up going in this direction, which makes sense, because if I'm trying to pull something and I have another person help me pull it, we're going to add forces together, and it's going to move a lot faster. The third object, I've got 2 people working on the right side. I've got 1 person on this side. So total, I have 5 newtons on the left, and I'm going to add 2 and 3 up together on the right. So now I have 5 on each side. Now if I have 2 people tugging with all their might, but they're pulling with the same force, it's not going to go anywhere. They're balanced. So this is B, and up here we should have written a U for unbalanced. So when it's balanced, that means that there is no force overall acting on the object, because it all cancels out. So yeah, people are pulling with force on either side, but because it doesn't end up going anywhere, the net or overall force is going to be 0 newtons. I know it looks like it says on, so I'll put a little slash through it. Object 4, again, we've got 3 different forces acting on it. On the left side I have 6. On the right side I'm going to add those 2 6s up to get 12. So I'm going to find the difference. I've got 12 on one side, 6 on the other. My overall is going to be 6 newtons, and it's going to go to the right side. Finally, I've got 4 forces working on this last object. I'm going to add these together to find what the total force would be on either side. On the left side, 8 plus 3 is 11, and 6 plus 4 on the right is 10. So we end up with the object going towards the left with a force of 1 newton. We're going to have some more practice with this in class. And this is it for this video. I told you it was going to be super short. The next video, again, is based on the NFL, and you're going to see some people from the NFL being interviewed about how these forces act on them and how it mirrors the first law of motion. So be ready to talk about this in class tomorrow, and I'll see you then.